Welcome to The Kingstonian, a podcast that profiles individuals who are passionate about what they do for a living, about what organization they belong to, or simply passionate about the community they are a part of. Hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Dave Cunningham. Rob Watkins is one half of the music duo Watkins Harp, along with Tom Harpel. The two musicians are based in the area's West End. Rob has been on the show before, but I thought it was time for an update. They have released a second collection called Tuesday Morning on Revolver Records, a label based in the UK. These are exciting times for them, lots to talk about, so let's get to our conversation with Rob Watkins. Rob Watkins, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are going to do a bit of an update because a lot has happened over the past year with you and your bandmate, Tom Harpel. And I guess we should start by talking a little bit about the recording contract you have with Revolver Records, which is based in the UK.
Yep.
And you started off with Boondog Quip, your first collection, which was what, 2019?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got the contract. I'm interested in this story.
Well, like any other group, I think by fluke, you can pat yourself on the back and say we were so talented that's why. I mean, we believe that, but Tom was actually out on the East Coast visiting his one daughter and driving in the car and was playing the Boondog CD that we had just recorded. And he was literally just driving around for days with this playing and just said, it just deserves more than being heard locally. We were always, in years past, before that, we were sending CDs off or demos off to different record companies. And so this one time he just said, no, this one's just too good. The others are great. And this one's just too good to let it sort of pass by. So he had done some research and found these two record companies in the United Kingdom. So he sent them off to them. The one being Rocket Records, I think, was the first one, and then Revolver Records was the second one. So I think it was either on a Monday, or no, I think it was a Friday that they might have got it. Is that right? They got it on a Friday and loved it. Got back to us literally on the Monday of the next week and offered us a recording contract. So both of us being the skeptics we're going, yeah, right, sure, what's up, And, anyways, as it turned out, it was all legit. They did love the songs and were ready to promote us, presented us with a contract a few weeks later after a little bit of haggling and such. And so it literally happened that fast, as these things normally do. But that album also took us a year to record. So a lot of invested time. And you always hear that from other groups too, is that there is no overnight success. It's a lot of hard work and perseverance.
Do you have a sense as to what they liked about the songs?
Well, I think the quirkiness of them. There was one song in particular, Cold, Cold, Cold. And, our music lies in the roots Americana genre. So there was that aspect to it, which I think they really liked. But I think it was, as I say, the quirkiness of the songs. And we think it was this one song that sort of everyone in the office kind of snickered at and said, wait a minute, that's different than what we've heard before. There's a lot of Americana out there, roots, but it was just a little different from the other ones. And I think that's what got us signed, is that although there's a common thread, we stood out in some way. Thank God.
We'll talk about the Americana business in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about the business side and how all of this works. So you signed a contract with Revolver Records.
Yep.
And so their plan was to distribute your records around the world, or how did that what's the plan there?
Originally not around the world. They just, they have sort of their test markets. Mm-hmm. So the original contract was for us to be exposed primarily to the European market. Mm-hmm. And first and foremost was the United Kingdom. So they do that. They kind of test the waters, if you will. So we were played more in England, possibly Scotland, I think, those areas first, and to see how it would work with our material there. And then if there was any success, and this is also from our end of things too, I mean, it took a lot of work from us across the pond here in Canada to do our share of the work. And especially now in a day and age where you can't tour. So there was many, phone calls and emails sent out to promote us, not only from the record company, but from us as well. And I think that's what led to its success.
When we go back several decades in terms of music and signing recording contracts, I had the impression that when an artist signs a recording contract, there's a lot of money involved. And whether it's money that the artist pays to the company to actually do the physical recording, or money that the company pays to the artist as like a signing bonus and that sort of thing. Things are a lot different these days than they were decades ago.
They are. I mean, the days I think of, going into big studios and using an expensive producer, it doesn't have to be done that way. Things can be done on the cheap. And that's not to diminish anything that you're doing material-wise. And that's the way we did it. I mean, we have learned from past experiences. We did an interview with this DJ from the Netherlands. And, we explained to him is that Tom and I have, 40 years of apprenticeship under us. So we've learned a few things in that time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we didn't get any hefty advance. There was none of that. It was more the negotiation of, what do we get at the end of the day? And here's what we will provide. We maintain all the masters. We can keep that. We are in charge of our own publishing right now, even though we were offered a publishing deal separate from our distribution deal. And that's something that we're still looking at down the road. But the main thing is that Tom and I said, look, we've, basically we got screwed from a lot of other people. Let's not let that happen again. Let's us take control this time. And if this company is legit, then things will follow suit. And it did. And they've done a tremendous amount for us. We're very, very thankful to Paul Birch and the rest of the team at Revolver Records. They do a great job. They have promoted us and we sold a lot of records. So that's pretty satisfying.
So what's in it for the record company is to sell records.
Basically, yeah.
Right. So how many records have you sold of the first LP? Do you know that?
Boondog, I think, was either between 10 and 12,000 units. Yeah. We're not sure the specific number, but somewhere in that vicinity, which is great for us. That's the most amount of records we've ever sold. So it was a good starting point for us. Now, money-wise, our contract, which is pretty much the standard for any independent artist, we were signed to a 3-year contract and to pretty much deliver an album each year. Our payment is actually 0.0006 of a cent. So what that equates to is that for every 1,000 digital, or that's Spotify, yes, you're right. So from that streaming, you get basically for every 1,000 downloads, you make $6, I think it is. So big money is not there.
Yeah.
That's not why we're into it. Anyways, most artists will tell you that, is that I guess that's the brass ring if you're shooting for it. But I mean, the money isn't there that used to be, is what I'm saying. So advances, no, those are gone. Recording in a big studio. We have our own studio here. That's the first thing that we set up years ago. Again, it gets back to, and I would tell any artist that, is set yourself up that way. The more you can do for yourself, the better off you will be at the end of the day.
And there's lots of equipment and software that you can get that enables you to do all of that at home.
Yeah, I mean, it amazes us that, for the equipment that we use, and I'm not slighting that at all, it's great equipment, but a lot cheaper than going to New York City and recording. It sounds great, and it competes with other artists that are out there. I mean, we pinch ourselves every time we get a chart back from, Belgium or the Netherlands or wherever it is that has Watkins Harp along with Bob Dylan and Roger McGuinn or whoever it is. That's just mind blowing, So we are able to, in other words, with the technology we have, to keep up with the bigger names out there.
With many of the people that I've spoken with, artists who write their own material, the main thing that they want to accomplish is to get that music out there so that other people can listen to it and sample it and get a sense of what was on their mind when they write the song, which seems to be prime reason number one why you do this.
Yes. Yeah, of course it is. I mean, you're, as a songwriter, it's something you do that's therapeutic, it's cathartic, it's so many different things, but we all share it, as a community in the world. And now is a great time for us. 40 years ago when we were approaching you at the radio station with our single, hey, we got a single. And so, that's exciting. But, the thought of it's that you're going to be heard by 10,000 people. You're like, wow, that's super. And now it's at the press of a button, you're heard by 1 million people at any given time. It's mind-boggling.
That's right.
It's very gratifying as a musician to be able to reach that many people in this day and age at the click of a button.
So with the success of Boondog Quip, you have a second album that's been released late last year called Tuesday Morning. Tell us about that release.
Well, Tuesday Morning is a collection of more, I think, introspective songs. So we Tom and I shared kind of the same mindset with this album, was to kind of bare our souls a little bit more. And the way Tom and I write, there's times where I will bring a song in, and it's pretty much fully complete, but we always maintain that we run the songs by each other. Maybe there's a word change or a chord change, something, and then we do have times that we set aside where, Tom sits at the piano and I sit with the guitar and we will just come up with a song from scratch. So that album was pretty much built that way. A collection of songs that Tom and I equally wrote, some that I wrote, and then some songs that Tom wrote. But they're all of equal status. So it was more of an introspective album, I think.
Now, a little while ago, we talked about your music as being labeled as, quote, Americana, which is something that to me is reasonably new as a style of music, if you will. And how much do you know about how that evolved, or what is Americana music?
That's funny. Well, Americana music has always been around. It's just had different labels throughout all the ages. That's all it really is, because it's funny that, I was in a rock band for years. So was Tom. Tom played blues in different bands and such. We were always writing that kind of material anyways. It just had a different moniker to it, a different label. But I mean, Americana is that stripped down, more acoustic based writing style. It has country elements in it. It's got blues elements in it, rhythm and blues. It entails a lot, but it is that kind of, it's associated, I think, more with the folky style of music that's out there. So it's kind of a cross between, I guess, if you will, like folk and country.
Some of your music has been played on stations in Europe, Belgium, Netherlands, those places. It's also been played on a syndicated internet radio show, which I think it's on every week. And this is a show that is done by a Scottish expatriate who moved to the States, now lives in Brooklyn. The show is called the International American Music Show, and he plays Americana music, but Americana music as performed by anybody who is not an American.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
And your song's been played on his show.
Yeah, 60 stations we got picked up. I mean, I was doing a dance, like when Tom sent me the email and said, you're not going to believe this. We broke into the States. That's huge. People just have that to us, Tom and I are literally like glowing, if you will. Anyways, and it was like having our records played on the radio for the very first time. It was that same feeling 40 years later, but irregardless, unbelievable. And it was just kind of funny that a Scottish DJ in the States is playing music from Germany and Canada and wherever else, and anybody else from the States. And, in a way that's good. I mean, the States is a huge market and the competition is unbelievable. So I kind of kudos to this fellow who is able to say, okay, you Americans have had your shot at it. Let's give these other fellas a chance.
Michael Park is his name.
Michael Park, yeah. Great. I mean, we can't thank him enough.
Now, the objective here with respect to getting this kind of exposure is not so much to sell copies of the CD, which would be nice, but it's also to get your music out there so that other people think about recording it as well, correct?
Sure it is, yeah. Tom and I constantly talk about that, is that if we were ever fortunate to form our own record company, that there's a handful of people we know locally anyways, younger artists, that just deserve a break like this. I mean, but it's achievable and it's out there. Yep. So whether it be through us or someone else, it doesn't really matter. That's irrelevant. There's just a ton of talent, especially locally in Kingston. Kingston is just, since the Tragically Hip opened up the doors to the world for us, Kingston has become this mecca. Kingston is now the Liverpool of England, as it was. So a lot of deserving artists out there that need to be heard. For sure. And in this segment, let's talk about songwriting. I know you and I have talked about this before, and I am just amazed at people who can sit down and write a tune from scratch. And I get the impression that you are very prolific when it comes to writing songs. And I just like to get a sense, I know we talked a bit about it in the previous segment, but let's talk a little bit about how this all happens for you in terms of writing. Well, like I said, Tom and I try and make a point of, getting together whenever we can. And for the most part, we'll just sit around, for an hour and a half, and we just talk each other's ears off and talk about the troubles of the day or what's going on in our lives. And then we go and sit at the piano. Tom plays piano, and it's sometimes, which is really gratifying. And it's so hard to explain, but a lot of times, yes, we will go and we'll have a preconceived notion to start with. There's a sort of launching point. But other times, and this is the part I love, we don't know. In other words, the muse comes to us, as Tom likes to say, and we let the muse in and guide us. So it might be that I start off with a riff or a chord, and then a line comes. We'd have a pad and a pen there sitting there, and just the first words to come to us. And as a songwriting duo, we do bounce a lot of ideas off of each other, but we don't take forever on a song. That's our thing, is that if the song is going to come, it's going to come. Let it in and get it out. Because the worst thing I think you can do is beat a song up. And what I mean by that is there's artists out there who perfect things, and every note's got to be perfect. And the lyric you can't use that same rhyming word. And it's like, what? A song is just, getting your feelings out, putting it to music and capturing that moment. That's the biggest thing. It's sort of getting back to what you had asked before about what Revolver Records might have heard in us, in our songs. I think it was is that the quirkiness, yes. I think they got this sense of that these songs are exciting. Why do they seem exciting to us? And the reason for that is because if you beat a song up and you put it on tape and you give it to someone, those people will pick up on that. They will sense that, geez, they almost sound frustrated, or those words seem forced, or whatever it is. You have to take that excitement and, as quick as you can, bottle that and put it down on tape. And that's what works for us. So songwriting, that's our strong point, I think, is we're able to do that. You've been kicking around the music business for a long time. You have heard a lot of music from a lot of different people. How does a songwriter try to be original and not copy someone else? Well, you can't. That's the thing, is that, we all beg, borrow, and steal from each other. So, whoever your inspiration is, you have a tendency to say, well, I want to do something kind of like that. But, we each have our own voices. So it's like, in the days when you're in a cover band and you're doing someone else's material, it's your take on that artist. But it is hard to sort of separate your songs from someone who is, more established than you are. You just be yourself. That's any artist will tell you that. Is that if you're not true to yourself, don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't try and mimic someone else. Be yourself. And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, Personally, I know it took me years. I did a gig 2 years ago, and this was with a separate group, Old Pony. Anyways, we were playing down at the RCHA. Tom and Pat were there in the audience and finished our first set. And I said to Tom, this is the first time in 40 years I was actually just being myself. In other words, I wasn't imitating John Lennon or Paul McCartney or Roger McGuinn. I was just being me. And people responded to that. And, the light bulb went off then. It was like, oh, okay. Just be yourself. Be happy. Enjoy what you're doing. It's like anything in life. That's going to show. People will respond to it.
Is being yourself something that attracted you to the simple instrumentation that you're using on your music right now?
Yeah, very much so. Mm-hmm. Tom and I are big proponents of that, is that we like simplicity. Our studio is an 8-track studio. So we are very conscious of that's the limited amount of tracks we have. How do we make that work? Yeah. And we know that now, we'll change things up when we record. Tom will suggest, use a snare drum on this, or no, use that cardboard box or a shaker, and we experiment, we do that.
Is it just the two of you in the studio, or do you have other people that come in?
No, always just the two of us. Okay. When we do this project, that's the thing, is it's got to be just Tom and I. So we share a lot of music, I should say instrumentation wise, we share a lot of things. But, Tom plays the piano, he plays the banjo, didgeridoo and bagpipes, I think. But anyways, just different things. So he brings certain things to the table. And same for me, I play bass and drums and guitar, but yeah, we share those duties, which is really neat. Mm-hmm. I love it, and we don't profess to being the best players in the world. Again, we have fun. We know our limitations. So yeah, we know what works for us now, and we know how to work that as well.
In a perfect world, who would you have record your songs?
Boy, that's a good one. Yeah, Paul McCartney would be kind of up there. Paul or Ringo right now. I've called them. They don't return my calls. I'll pay them. Paul, listen, I'll pay your flight over here. Come and jam with Watkins Harp. Okay, it's an invitation. Ringo, okay, yes, we'll get you to play drums. I know you've been bugging me. That's fine. We're okay with that. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different artists. It's really hard to say. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's really tough, but I don't know. I can hear Alan Jackson doing a song, or just so many artists. I can't sort of pigeonhole one to say it would be them, because right now it's whoever is listening to our music that likes it and can connect to it. Mm-hmm. And if they want to do it, it's great. I'll tell you this, honest, it's in the same vein of things. There's a local artist. Her name is Tegan McLaren. And she is, one of those people I keep saying, boy, if I had millions of dollars, and which Tom and I don't, just so you know. But if we had that kind of money, she's that one artist that I would promote. Anyways, so I got together with her back in the summer, and we jammed a little bit. And immediately after, I'd written this song that was something I thought would suit her. And so then the COVID thing started to ramp up again, and we couldn't get together. So I'd said, listen, I've got this one song. It's not finished, but, the structure is there for it, and you'll get it. And I said, in the words, the lyrics, I said, they're rough too. You write something that suits you. So I sent her an email of the song, demoed it for her. The next day, she says, I love it. Here's what I did. She sent me this video back that was about 1.5 minutes long. I was floored. I was floored from different levels. As her talent is unbelievable. It was someone else singing our song, our songs rather. And that was just a thrill to hear someone else interpreting it. And she sang it differently than I did, which was great.
Yeah.
That's what I like, is someone else is going to take our songs and they will interpret them their way.
One last question. Mm-hmm. I heard this story about a place called Watkinsville.
Yeah. You want to know what it is?
I saw a clip on Global News Kingston where Bill Wilichka was at your place, and you took people on a tour of Watkinsville. So for the benefit of the radio audience, can you give us a quick description as to what Watkinsville is?
Watkinsville is a scaled down version of Upper Canada Village. So there's 14 buildings on the property. It looks like something of the era of the 1870s, 1880s. And it's just a series of different buildings. There's a general store, there's a mercantile, a cottage, a writer's cottage. There's what's called the Longhouse, which I don't really even know what that is, but a barber shop, there's a school, a library. I've still got to build a church and a jail, I'm told. But so it's just a series of these smaller buildings. They're all shed sizes, around 10 by 10 or so. Basically, I got bored, and we bought this old farmhouse, which needed a lot of work, and had a bunch of land with it. So I said, boy, I've always had a dream of having that village in my backyard, and that's what I did. Is I just cleared the land. I mean, I sound like one of the pioneers. Well, we strolled in here and we cleared the land with our bare hands. We gathered mud from the ground, but no, I get bored very easily. So, and I was very much into recycling materials. That was the biggest thing. So I'd find scrap wood anywhere I could dig it up and be pulling nails for weeks and put all these buildings together for a fraction of the price that would cost anyone else to build. So I did my part in recycling and fulfilled a childhood dream of mine, and we've actually shot a video there. Our first video that we did for Watkins Harp was a song called The Writer. So go to YouTube, people, and look up Watkins Harp, The Writer, and you actually will see the buildings. Or I think that video that Bill and I did is probably out there somewhere too, probably on my Facebook page. On the station
site too.
Yeah. So that's what it is basically. It's just a recreation of an old Western village.
Cool. Yeah. Well, for all of us who are getting bored, who have been bored for a while because of the pandemic, we certainly do appreciate folks like you who are sitting in their studios at home, putting out great music, and we thank you for your time today, Rob.
Well, thank you very much.
All the best. Theme music for the program is Stasis Oasis, a tune written and performed by Kingston musician Tim Aylesworth. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about any of our episodes, please send a note to the Kingstonian Podcast Facebook page. This is Dave Cunningham from Kingston, Ontario. Thank you for listening. Until next time.